You're listening to Season 2 of It's Not Out There, It's In You. I'm Todd Cahill, and thanks so much for listening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast It's Not Out There, It's In You. This is Todd Cahill, your host for today. We're so excited for you to be on Episode 2, Season 2 of this podcast. Now, Season 1 is obviously available. Check that out. If you're new to our podcast, thank you so much. Subscribe and definitely give us a 5-star if you really, really feel this episode, which I really feel that everyone listening to this episode today is going to get so much out of it, and it's going to add so much value, because today we're talking with Emanuel Zevallos, who is one of the top body code practitioners in the entire world. He's also a great friend of mine, close friend of mine, actually my coaching partner of the Inside Out coaching program that we are so excited about. So I want to get right into it. Now, listen to Season 2, Episode 1 to get all of Emanuel's background, his bio, his accomplishments. Like I said, he is the number one practitioner out there, 5-star reviews, the highest 5-star review ratings, Compass Healing. You can look it up on Facebook. Emanuel himself, Zevallos, is on Instagram. And he's all over. He is just incredible. Him and his girlfriend have created something so special. And I know his girlfriend works very side by side, just like my wife works very closely with me. It's just so amazing to see his growth and see what he's done to so many people. He actually has 80 clients that he serves every single week doing the body code with them. So we're going to get into it. Like I said, definitely check out Episode 1. We spent a lot of time just helping you understand what the emotion code is, the book by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who Tony Robbins actually did the foreword, and then also the emotion code and how they play together, what they are. So if you haven't listened to it after this, you can definitely check out Episode 1 of Season 2. But today I want to really target probably the biggest stress, the biggest worry that every single one of us has. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says that, when someone says money doesn't make you happy, money is the root of all evil. There's so much dogma around the topic of money. But at the end of the day, we have to have money. And if you really think about it, if you don't have money, you could die. So it's a very serious thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But most people, 76% of people, according to AP poll, hate their job. 76 people in America literally get up, they, microwave their food or whatever they do and go to Starbucks, drive to their job, spend 8 to 10 hours sitting at a cubicle, doing things they probably don't even like doing because they need a secure paycheck every other week. And I've seen this being an entrepreneur now for almost 2 decades. Emanuel's been an entrepreneur now for many, many years. And working for yourself is also not, easy as well. Sometimes there's parts of it I don't like either. But 76%, according to AP poll, hate their job. It's not like they kind of don't like it. They hate it. So that means only like 20-something% of people in America kind of like their job or love their job. And it's not even their love their job. They could maybe stand it. So why do people do this? Why do people sacrifice years and years of their life for a paycheck, for money that they don't even touch nowadays? They just see it wired into their account from their employer. What's up with all this? Why can't we just stop and talk about this subject? Well, it really comes down to trapped money trauma. We have emotional trauma. I mean, I wrote in my book, You vs. You, what I went through when I was a young boy, when my father would constantly make us worry about money, how we're going bankrupt, we don't have money. He was up and down as a salesman, had all the best intentions. We had money sometimes, then we didn't have money. And all I wanted when I was young was a pair of Air Jordans so I could look cool. That were about $140. So I worked my tail off all summer just so I could buy a pair of sneakers. But, back then you're a kid, you don't realize what really money is. But I want to have Emanuel come on, obviously share a little bit of your story, Emanuel, what got you into the emotion code and body code. I know, like I said, you spoke a lot about that on Episode 1, but we're really going to talk about money today and how to really look at money, redefine it, redefine the battle, and just have great marriages. And imagine a marriage where there's never even talk about money. That would be unbelievable, right? Where you and your spouse don't even really mention money. Obviously, it's still important. You still need to talk about it, but not like, oh, honey, guess what? I need a check from you this week. Oh, really, honey? Oh, my gosh. Oh, I thought I just paid the mortgage. Oh, it's already a month later. Oh, what am I going to do? And then, of course, that the rest of your day is shot. You're just like struggling, you're fearful. All this stuff goes through all of us, whether we'd like to admit it or not. It's a you versus you battle. So, Emanuel, it's so great to have you on again. You're just such an awesome guy. I just can't wait for the world to know all about you. I know a lot of the world already does. If you look you up on YouTube, so many great interviews with Dr. Bradley Nelson himself and you. Tell us a little bit about your story for those that haven't heard episode 1, and then let's get right into it if you don't mind. Appreciate you being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on here. And I definitely explained my story a little bit on podcast 1, but just to keep it really short, just so we can get to the meat and potatoes, if you will, I basically grew up with 2 oncologist parents, very heady. And I never thought I would ever be in this type of industry, which is the energy healing industry. And I was just looking for something because I didn't really know what my passion was at all. It was around 2015. Just didn't really know what I was going to do. I was in a job where I was helping out real estate agents, I guess doing sales, but I never owned a real estate license. I mean, that doesn't sound right. And then also, just my finances were, just not doing well. Relationship was on the brink of not doing well at all. So everything was just kind of falling apart. And unfortunately, that's kind of like the times where we start really seeking. It's almost too late. And it's not like what was happening around me was that's who I am. It's just symptoms of certain things that was inside of me already that kind of like I'm receiving the ramifications of neglect. And I realized I need to make a change. I read the book, The Emotion Code. I've been certified Emotion Code, Body Code, working about 6 years now as and very good friends with Dr. Brad. He's a very close friend of mine. I created this course called Advanced Healers Success Training Course, which is to help other practitioners go full time. That's why Dr. Brad and I are very close. And that's basically my quick story. But I just wanted to share that, money is a very, very important subject. In fact, I remember one of the major, you were talking about your dad, very personal there. My mother also too, even though she was a millionaire in her own right as an oncologist, I remember her saying things like, we don't talk about money in the home. We just don't talk about, And I remember thinking in my mind, I was like, is money sinful? Is money bad? And I would do anything in my power. Whenever I received money, I would always give it to other people. I'd like somehow just like give it away. I need to get a gift for someone that probably won't appreciate me a couple of months from now. But that was a very bad wealth file. Like T. Harv Eker talks about wealth files, poverty file. I had a very bad poverty file that money was bad or money was sinful. And I had to overcome that, So I definitely can understand where you're coming from, Todd, that our childhood, what we experience in our childhood, what we experience as teens, can really disrupt the way we think about money in our current state.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking about money and what I've experienced, I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone that's listening into this. I mean, me and Emanuel both have experienced some tough times. I've been homeless before. I've made millions, lost millions. I've lost a lot of money too. I haven't been wise with money, and really just that understanding the current reality. Once we know, like, hey, this is like, hey, I'm 39, or hey, I'm 59, and I don't have $5,000 in my name, or hey, I don't have $1,000 to my name. I think it really starts with the current reality. Max Dupree says the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. So I think part of the battle of you versus your finances, in my perspective of the conscious thinking, is, okay, where are you at right now? Where are you at with your life, and where are you at with your finances? And why is it that way? And really having that conversation. And that's why I love coaching people and directing people this way. But I will say, through my frustration, I always say I'm happily pissed. And what that means is I'm a very happy person, but I really, really want to spread this message because I see so many people not moving forward on their passions, dreams, and goals because they always, always, always use money as the excuse. And Dr. Wayne Dyer, who passed away a few years ago, who was really just a treasure in the past 100 years in the personal growth world, he was one of the greatest and my mentors. He wrote the book Excuses Be Gone around 2006 or 2008. And I remember being a part of the same company that Emanuel was, in that first 9 years of my entrepreneur career. And I took it and ran with it because he said the worst excuse that any human being can ever have is money, because money's everywhere. Money is just a form of payment. But I think the problem is, Emanuel, you can chime in on this, is people chase money. That's the problem. Is like they're chasing all the outside things, right? They're chasing. I know back when I was with Prepaid Legal in those days with you, Emanuel, years ago. I mean, it was like if you didn't have like a BMW in Southern California, if you didn't have like a Mercedes or a Lexus and a 3-piece suit and a pinstripe suit in that company, you weren't really successful. Or it was all this, the house. I remember in my 20s, what was so important to me was getting a big house so I can show everyone I went from homeless to look at my house in Southern California, which I bought five, in a matter of about 10 years in that company. And just looking back on it, I should have just lived in a condo, who cares, right? And saved all my money. But tell us a little about why it's so, I don't know, the chasing thing outside of us, but what if we looked inside of us? What does that really mean when somebody wants to live a life of abundance and, but is still chasing the paycheck, is still chasing the promotion, is still chasing someone else even and comparing themselves? How can you come in and really help that person?
So one of the major things that people are unaware that they have in their body, and I mentioned this in podcast one, but also you might want to go on YouTube and look up heart wall 15 minutes. If you just write down heart wall 15 minutes, you'll come to the understanding of one of the biggest things that's holding everybody back. In fact, Dr. Brad mentions that 93% of people have one, and they don't even know about it. They just don't know. If they did know, they would find any way to get rid of it. And what it is basically just trauma that you've received that's affected your heart, and your body has placed these energies, these things called trapped emotions over your heart. And one of the biggest things is chasing dreams. I think the reality is you'll keep chasing them unless you really chase what your heart wants. The problem is remember in high school, Todd, I don't know if your principal said chase, follow your liver or like follow your kidney. Pretty sure most principals didn't say that.
No.
They were saying follow your heart.
Right.
The problem with that saying is that how do you follow your heart if you have a bunch of trapped emotions and walls around your heart? It's almost like trying to experience life in a silo or like in a bomb bunker. I mean, how much are you really experiencing life? And that's what the heart wall does. It's kind of a double-edged sword. That's what's kind of ironic. Your body was trying to save you from heart trauma, but then the problem is you're in a bunker. So it's like you can't really experience life. I think the reason why most people are willing to go to a job to be a slave to money is because they're unaware of what their heart really desires. I knew as soon as I cleared my heart wall, I could not stand my job. Just couldn't stand it anymore. In fact, the walls were closing in, and I was the guy from Shawshank Redemption with a poster trying to like nail my way out of there and make a hole out of there sooner than later. And so I think if people were just to remove their heart wall and basically understand, like, I'm starting to feel, and trust me, here's the double-edged sword that I tell my clients. I say, I'm just giving you a heads up. If we remove your heart wall, you're either going to love what you do and you're going to receive more happiness, joy, and elation, or this is a bad or you're going to really hate what you're doing and you're going to realize that you have a higher calling waiting for you. So I think it has to do with heart walls. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful because, I've been mentored by Kyle Cease, and he always talks about, money chases the person that has the passion and really the heart of doing something that they've always wanted to do. And it's interesting, even just with the Inside You coaching program, I never wanted to be a life coach. After I tried being a life coach, I realized nothing against life coaches. It's just like, how can I really coach someone on life? I mean, it's such a complex, thing. But what I can do is help someone transform their life as a leader and become a leader and step into their full power. But in order for somebody to really step into their full power, in order for somebody to really step into a real marriage and a powerful relationship, it has to be all heart. It has to be like, I give you my heart, right? So when somebody looks at like their professional career, which obviously is going to bring money, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is selling out. They sell out because of money. They sell out because it's a security thing. But what they're really selling out on is themselves. It's totally you versus you. They're selling out on the fact that, they're playing at such a low vibration. They just, the security, it's Maslow's law. It's like the lowest level of the Maslow's law that obviously Dr. Maslow talked about in the 70s and 60s. For you, with all your experience, Emanuel, it's like, and of course your practice just thriving. 80 clients a week, and it's just continuing to grow. Why is that? Is it just because you just one day woke up and said, I'm just going to follow my passion and I don't really care about money anymore. I'm just going to do what I love. And if money comes, great. And if it doesn't, great. How did you have the courage to do that?
So the answer to that is, for me, is very simple, is that the soil of success is frustration, and I was very frustrated. And I'm telling everyone in some area of their life is frustrated, or as they, and frustration usually comes from an area being dammed. Like it's almost like there's a block, something is, stuck there. But I don't want to tiptoe around, I love emotion code, I love energy healing, but I don't want to tiptoe around the reality that the greatest book in the world is the Bible. I don't want to do that. And if you notice, there's a kind of a theme in the Bible, actually. And my favorite theme is someone that you feel like is unqualified has always been qualified by God. Always. And it sounds like, for example, I want to choose Moses, for example. Moses for 40 years was going to be the next Pharaoh. He would have been he was the runner up on it. But somehow, due to the fact of some incidents that happened and him killing someone, and then all of a sudden he had to run, and then he found out he spoke with God. All of a sudden he realized that wasn't his mission at all. See, so he would have been a great. See, if he would, I don't want to use the heart wall in here, but it's almost like if he could have been a great Pharaoh, but that's not what his calling was. His calling was to be in the wilderness, leading Israel out. His fulfillment came from following his mission. And I think, again, we have a mission crisis on the planet. People are not paying it. They don't believe that they, before they even were born, that they could have made their mind up on what they wanted to help people out here in this life with their gifts and talents that are only specific to them, that they do something that no one else can do. They need to first find that their gifts and talents, and they need to realize that they do have a mission in life. And I want to tell you this, passion, to have passion with something. People think you have to be always happy with what you do. Like Emanuel is always happy because he's an emotion code, body code practitioner. He has to be happy, happy, happy. I have passion for my work, but that involves ups and downs. That's just the reality. That's the world we live. We don't grow unless there's downs and ups. That's just the way it is. And passion actually comes from Jesus Christ, from him suffering. And it's almost in terms of sacred suffering. So if you're not, I always tell people, if you're not willing to suffer for your mission, then that wasn't your mission in the first place.
Wow.
And for me, for example, so for example, if someone said, Emmanuel, I'm only going to give you a sandwich, but I need you to become the greatest practitioner because you chose that mission, I would say, give me the sandwich and let me live in a box. But see, most people, if I ask them at your job, would you do it for free? 99.9999% of people would say, no, I wouldn't. Then I'm like, you need to keep looking for your passion then.
So powerful. Would I host a podcast for free and interview you for free? Absolutely, I am doing it right now. So you're absolutely right about that, because that's such a good gut check too. It's like, whatever I'm doing, would I actually really do this for free, or am I really doing it for a paycheck? And you can even look at some relationships. Are you really that person's friend just because you're getting something from them, or you really are passionate pursuing a relationship with that person? So I think our world, because we talked about this, I don't know if it was just me and you one-on-one, or if you talked about this in the other episode, but it's like, why do you think, just talking like friends right now, just me and you, why do you think people don't talk about money? Like, why is it like nobody wants to talk about politics, nobody wants to talk about religion, spirituality, our soul? They just want to talk about what happened on Netflix, or the coronavirus, or who cares? Like, why don't people want to talk about money, how to make more money, how to think bigger? And also, and the flip note of that, why do you think people are just like, when anyone does talk about it, they want to tear them down? Like if they start a business, or if they do join a network marketing company, or if they become a real estate agent, whatever, it's like, oh, I don't know if you're going to do that. A lot of people fail. And that same person that's saying that hates their job. It's just, I think it's an interesting conversation. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
Again, it's a lot of it has to do with unconscious programming. I'll give you just two examples here real quick. For example, one of the things money isn't just, it is energy. Money is just energy. The problem is that we've been programmed to attach an emotion with that energy. So whatever we're programmed with, and I think one of the biggest things, and for example, David Hawkins in the book Power versus Force, he talks about how the lowest vibration on the emotional chart is shame. Shame is just the lowest. And the reality is that most people are ashamed of two things. One is they haven't found their mission. There's shame behind that. And also that they're literally a slave to the dollar. That's another shame. Also, the fact that their parents didn't make enough. there's more shame there. So you have to understand that there's, but it's not only just feeling shame, they're trapping shame in their body or guilt. There's just different things of just very low frequency vibrations that come along with money. And that's why they can't make it, because they just feel like there's just certain emotional connections that show up, that pop up in their body due to this. And so I think it's very, very important just to like, I like to give some hope to some people here, is that if your relationship with money hasn't been that great, there's a reset to this. There's a way you can reset yourself. And there's many, like I said, there's many modalities out there: emotion code, body code, Reiki healing, theta healing, all these different types of healing. I've just found that the body code for me is the most, as it's pronounced, as Dr. Brad, is the most complete system to really find out what's the real underlying imbalances that's causing you to feel a certain way when something comes up. In this case, money.
Hmm. So wrapping up this, important but yet quick, because we want to be in and out really on this one, because I really want just people to get to think, create self-awareness. That's why I have a podcast. It's not out there. It's in you. We have everything that it takes inside of us to actually overcome all of our money trauma and stuff like that. Of course, it comes from even inherited traumas. Maybe you can hit a little bit on that, because some people might not even be thinking about inherited 17 generations from the past that, always was kind of scraping by. We hear a lot about money. Money isn't everything, or I don't have the money, can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. But when you make that shift and when you redefine what really money is and how it is abundantly everywhere, especially when you can offer value, I think it really is, for me, it was that shift in perspective, knowing like, okay, I have a skill set. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Justin Timberlake, okay, he's a great singer. He's probably worth, obviously, millions and millions of dollars. But let's say Justin Timberlake's net worth went to zero today. He literally lost all of his money. Well, he could go on tour next week and in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months, make all his money back, because he has a skill set. So I think that's another underlying thing that we don't really want to talk about is people are not really developing skills. They have maybe a passion for something, but then they don't take action. And because they don't take action, then they never really become great at it. Like even starting this podcast was scary for me. I didn't know technology. It was intimidating. So I hired a podcast coach, literally just a podcast coach who literally coaches me and gets on the phone and walks me through the technology side and how he does that. So I think it really comes down to like not only how we look at money, but like, okay, what do we want to do? And not just talking about it and dreaming about it, but taking action on it. So, for me, it's like people also have to get skills to pay the bills. And when that happens, money chases you. So talk to me a little bit about inherited, just to create awareness of, money money, like kind of like a bad mindset might be inherited. Where does that come from? And is that really real? And then also the action side and the skill side, because you've also developed your own skill of coaching people in the body code after 6 years. So how important does all that play into the abundance mindset?
So first of all, I want to talk about the skills. Again, everyone who's listening to my voice right now, you have, and whether you believe in like, you want to say universe or higher self, or, I call it God, but all of you guys have gifts and talents that were like given to you. Okay. So I just want, like, you may not think it, but you do. And there's in the good book, it talks about divers, divers gifts, like just many that are not even mentioned in there. There's some that people have a testimony of the Savior. There's some that have, receive healing, to give healing, to have a knowledge of the Savior. I mean, there's just so many awesome gifts out there. Gift of tongues, to give to understand other people who are speaking in a different language. There's all these gifts and talents. The one thing that, but it says there's divers in there. I remember I spoke with a church leader of mine, and we were having a little conference, and he said something very powerful to me. And I want you guys to kind of see how this relates to you. And we were talking about skills and gifts and things like that. He told me, he said, and I was talking to him, and we were talking back and forth, and I admired him. And he said something like, "Hey, Manuel, you have something special about you." And I said, "What is that?" And he's like, "Well, you know how you have diverse gifts. I just want to share one of your gifts that you're maybe unaware of." Then I was like, okay, I'm really curious what he's about to say. And he said, "You make me feel comfortable when I talk about my past." And I was like, okay. And he's like, "Yeah, it's like, I feel like when I talk to you, you have no judgment. You just look at me for who I am." And I was like, Oh, I'm glad I can provide that for you. And this is the first thought I had. You guys ready for my first thought? Is like, what is a Verizon wireless greeter gonna do with that talent? Because that's where I was. I was just a Verizon wireless greeter. So you see that, and then people say, "Oh, Emmanuel, you speak very well on stage." I'm like, "But I didn't really wasn't doing really well in a business, but like I'm speaking on stage. What is that?" Because see, all of you guys are doing. You guys have certain things that you're very, very good at, but maybe you're just in the wrong department. And what your goal is to find is like, what am I good at? And maybe you can ask two of your three friends and be like, "Hey, just friend to friend, what am I good at? What do you feel like I'm really good at?" "Oh, you're good at communication." "Okay, write it down. Communication." "Okay, so it has to do something with communication." "You're very good at listening to others." "Okay, listening to others." "Okay, that's a gift. Some people don't know how to listen to others." So you say, "Okay, listening to others." Okay. And just kind of ask your friends, what are you good at? And I'm telling you, there is something out there that's calling your name and that has all the different facets of what you're really good at. And maybe you can just investigate that. But I think it's in regards to inherited emotions. I'll just say this real quick in a minute. Inherited emotions. They found out that animals can pass down emotions through the generational line. It's called epigenetics, and it's becoming more and more talked about. Epigenetics, like what are the energies of your generational line causing you, right? Like affecting you right now. Now, the best story that I can give right now is Dr. Brad. He had one of unworthiness or worthless, and that basically came from multiple generations from somebody in Ireland. And I think it was like 26 or 27 generations. It came down to him. And so this person up there who owned a farm basically felt worthlessness so strong. And had to do with his business, with his farm that he had. And it got passed down all the way down to him and even down to his daughter. His daughter actually worked on her father and released this inherited emotion, which in very good news is that it also released from her. And he was able to become more and more prosperous, letting everyone know about the emotion code. And then she got to go on a world tour, traveling, doing the body code business for 12 months and not coming home for 12 months. Obviously, you have to be very successful and have a lot of clients. If you can choose to not go home and just travel to different countries while you're healing people all over the world. That only happened after she released this inherited worthless, which was ringing in her father's body and ringing in her body. So that's just kind of a quick example. We have inherited energies from our family that it actually came down to warn us about something. Like if there was betrayal, it would come down to us, or if it was worthlessness, it would come down, hey, be careful to start a business. You're going to feel moments of worthlessness. But the problem is it can handicap us to the point where we don't do anything. So inherited emotions are very powerful if you can release them using the emotion code.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we're running out of time, but I want to keep the conversation going, and of course, we're going to have amazing guests this year in 2020 on season 2 on the "It's Not Out There, It's in You" podcast. And again, we believe that in order for you to win the you versus you battle, you have to understand that you have everything inside of you already, but you need help getting it out. And we don't want to chase the outside forces because you don't want to chase money. You want money to chase you. Once you know what's inside of you and start bringing that out, and of course, hiring a coach, getting help. So, Emanuel, where can anyone listening to this really reach out to you? Maybe you can schedule a free session because I know that's what you do at certain times. I know you're super busy, though. You're having a lot of clients every week, and you just do amazing work. But where can someone find you and really get a hold of you and your company, Compass Healing?
So here's what I'm going to share with everyone. If everyone can, comment, on wherever you're listening to, like maybe, obviously give a rating, an honest rating of what you thought about this podcast. But anybody who's listening to this podcast or anybody who is of Todd's client that in the Inside Out coaching, I'm providing a complimentary free session. That's not really the case. If you were to go on my calendar, we have an introductory session cost. But for anybody who's listening to me right now, I'll give you a free session at no cost. But you can go and so just if you speak to my assistant, just let them know I heard this podcast, or I'm in your coaching program with Todd. But you want to go to Compass Healing on Facebook, Compass Healings with an S at the end. That's on Facebook, or you can go on YouTube. Just go on YouTube and look at some videos there. You can look up Compass Healing. I have a whole channel with over 350 videos. You can watch some videos of me talking and explaining more about how this works. And in there, you'll see a link to set up a free session. But again, to get a free session, to get it sooner than later, you may just want to just email my assistant at schedulemyhealing@gmail.com. And it's schedulemyhealing@gmail.com. And you might want to just mention that you heard this podcast or you're working with Todd, and then I can facilitate a free session for you.
Well, thank you so much, Emanuel. Thanks so much for being on today. And we so value your time and your amazing information, that your specialized knowledge that I really believe so many people need to hear. So I'm so proud I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. I'm so proud of what you're doing for people so eloquently, and just, you're such a humble guy too. Like, you're greatly successful. You're really just that type of guy that's so rare, that just gives and just serves, and it's of course eternal work. And I know that you're going to be heavily rewarded on the other side of this life for sure, because you just have the biggest heart really out there. And of course your work is, like I said, it's just miraculous. I just love it. I mean, what you've done for me, what you've done to some people I know, and really healing them from so many different things and cutting that cord of negativity, it's just been unbelievable. So everyone listening to this, definitely reach out, get to know Emanuel, his Compass Healing, really what he does. It's amazing. I know Emanuel's going to be continuing to do great things, so definitely get to know him, follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook, and I know that'll be a huge blessing for your life. Hey, if this episode actually added value to you, do me the biggest favor. Give it a 5-star review. It would absolutely mean the world to me. And then also share it with just at least one person that needs to hear this episode and what we talked about on it. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.